what's going on, everybody? You're tuning into another episode of 20 Tim Minutes. I am your host, Tim McCarthy. Today, we have on actress, singer, dancer, and mental health advocate who has appeared in numerous projects, such as being on the Disney Channel, the Step Up franchise, and Cheaper by the Dozen movies. You may also remember her as a backup dancer for numerous music videos, more famously for her appearance in the Missy Elliott videos, my personal favorite. Alyson Stoner, how are you?
Hey, how's it going?
It's
Thanks
going
for having
great.
me.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for coming on. This means a lot. This is going to be a lot of fun.
I'm very much looking forward to whatever we're about to uncover together.
Fantastic. I ask all my guests this question first. What does mental health mean to you?
Hmm. Okay. I appreciate that you ask it in a way that we know it's personalized, because obviously our working definitions will be different. I would say the first thing that comes to mind is the wheel of well-being, and it's the different aspects of well-being that are mental, emotional, physical, environmental, financial, spiritual, social. And so I see mental health as an important dimension of the greater whole. But what I don't want to do is isolate it and think that it's the only important thing, or that it needs to be disproportionately, favored or neglected. So I think when I think of mental health, I think about it being an undeniably important aspect of a greater whole of well-being.
That's a great answer. What is your relationship with mental health?
Well,
I'm like loaded questions right off the jump. Then we're going to deep dive into more questions.
my relationship with mental health likely reflects my relationship with human beings, which is sometimes avoidant, dismissive attachment style. So I can easily be a bit neglectful if I don't establish certain structures and routines. So that's been in the last couple of years. I've actually, it's not like I follow a routine every single day,
Right.
but I at least have some go-to tools and strategies that help with just well-being maintenance, and mental hygiene, I suppose, is a term that people use. Because yeah, otherwise my mind is not bathing for a long, long time. So I have to like schedule this in to remember, and I think that reflects my early upbringing. Like my focus was so work oriented that I wasn't really considering what my mind or body needed at any given time for well being's sake. It was just, what do I need to do to accomplish said task? So, yeah, I have to be a bit more thoughtful and intentional about my relationship with mental health.
You were
But I think
diagnosed
I'm
with,
becoming a better partner. I am
uh,
becoming a better partner.
how so?
Because I am showing up more and I am listening with curiosity and compassion, and I am learning new strategies to communicate with my mind and parts of myself, with, a little bit more honesty and love. Um, and I think overall, it's like I feel a bit more resilient. Like I just feel like I can manage what life brings. Life certainly hasn't gotten easier, but I am feeling amidst the thickness of life, that I will find a way somehow.
That's good. I'm glad. So you were diagnosed with general anxiety disorder, OCD tendencies, and alexithymia. I want to touch on each a little bit, but can you explain to listeners what that may be, the alexithymia?
Yeah, so this is, my definition. I'm sure I'm paraphrasing the clinical expertise version. So alexithymia is it's when a person has difficulty identifying and expressing emotions. For me, I literally could be in a situation where you would visibly be able to notice that I'm experiencing, let's say, grief, or I'm experiencing happiness and joy, but I myself wouldn't be able to sense that experience in my body, let alone find words to describe it. And so when I started going to therapy, a classic question is, well, how did that make you feel? Or
Right.
how did you feel when that happened? And my therapist quickly could see this person is pretty numb in their own body. And we're going to have to use some somatic tools to help this person, thaw from a state of frozenness and to become aware, bit by bit about what they're actually experiencing. So I think that was always kind of ironic because I'm an actor and I'm portraying these emotional scenes,
Yeah.
yet I myself am pretty severely disconnected. And alexithymia looks different for everyone, but that's how it showed up for me. It impaired my ability to process emotional experiences.
I think that's what probably makes you a good actress, right?
Maybe.
That
I
just shows it.
appreciate your reframe. That's right. I will find something beautiful in that.
Yeah, there's always something. There's a silver lining in everything.
Yeah, I support that. And not to balance that out, but I will say as I'm getting older and more honest with myself, I have to remember that even in the most joyful moments, there usually are some sad pieces or there's just complexity and layers. So I'm
Yeah,
learning to embrace the wholeness and fullness of life in all moments.
that's great. So growing up in the entertainment industry, fans only see the outside, but what is it really like for someone who started off at such a young age? Another loaded question.
Yeah, just throwing them my way. Appreciate
Yep.
it. Hmm. So this is something I will continue to have to explore because I think as young people we inherit stories of ourselves from the folks around us. Could be parents and caregivers, could be society, and so if my story growing up was you, meaning Alyson, love to dance, sing, and act, and it's your choice to be doing this. And you can quit any time, but we know that you're thriving in it, so you should keep going.
Yeah.
That's the story I have adopted and lived out as if it were true undeniably. In reality, for a young person to make that kind of life-changing decision, it's psychologically impossible at that stage of development to know what you're really getting into and how the industry experience is going to affect your social life, is going to affect your emotional and psychological and physical development. So, as I look back and I think, what is it like for a young person to get into the industry?
Yeah.
Questions of agency and choice, come up for me. And I'm still unpacking that. Now, the superficial answer is it was really fun.
Right.
But the fuller answer is it's really complicated.
Yeah.
And and there are a lot of deep questions I think we need to ask ourselves about the industry
Hmm.
and from an audience standpoint. Like, let's think about the impact mm, that this is having on your development when you consume media that portrays these kinds of situations and scenarios with young people.
Was there like a moment, like obviously you were super excited, like, oh, I'm being an actress, like I'm all these different things. Was there like anything that you were like, this is getting kind of crazy?
Well, so to reiterate, or maybe this was from my earlier session, now they're blending together. Um, so as a young person, I only have the first map of reality, right?
Yep.
I don't have something to compare and contrast to. So if someone says, were you starting to think, wow, this is really intense? Intensity was just what was considered normal for me. It wasn't until I stepped away from the industry that I found myself going, wow, this is quote unquote normal life. This is quote unquote, mundane living. And it felt like, where's the chaos? There's not enough, there aren't enough highs and lows happening. What am I going to do here? It was uncomfortable, right? It felt boring. I was uneasy. So I think I just adapted to an environment of extremes. And um, that did take a toll on me, especially physically, right? So that's when I started finding myself with behaviors that were disordered around eating, um, and and that turned into full fledged multiple eating disorders that lasted for years. And I'm not sure they would have developed or been reinforced had I not been in an industry that, has certain conditions that uh, can contribute to forming a difficult relationship to your body and uh, self-care.
Now, I read too, this is kind of why you checked yourself in rehab was you auditioned for the Hunger Games and you were pretty emancipated because of that?
Um, i- i- so I emancipated, yes, and emaciated, yes. Um,
I
I
know, did I use the right word there?
well, my understanding is that emancipated refers to something that I did experience, which is not being under the legal protection and guidance of your caregivers anymore.
Right,
People in the industry do that so you can work longer hours because they can treat you like an adult. Whether or not that's smart is a different question.
right,
But emaciated, refers to being unhealthfully famished and underfed and undernourished. And so, it's a common story when people talk to actors or ask actors about what was it like playing that role and you had to do X, Y, and Z. Wow, you were training for 12 hours a day. You only ate broccoli, and there's this like it's glamorized and it's viewed as this like, wow, you're so committed. And in reality, it's taking a toll on your health and well-being.
right,
And unfortunately, the more competitive jobs are, the more you find yourself making sacrifices to do whatever it takes to get that job. So with Hunger Games, the character was described as emaciated. So I started training and losing weight, thinking, I can keep this under control. I had already recognized I had some disordered behaviors with eating and exercise, but I felt like, okay, I can handle this. And after I either do or don't get the role, I'll be able to recalibrate. Well, the reality is it got way too deep into my psyche, way too deep into my nervous system and physicality. And I recognized like I really need to seek professional help here because I can't get out of these habits on my own.
right.
They're starting to control my life. Um, so yeah, that's when I went into rehab. And ironically, oh my God, I don't think I've said this part of the story, but they were still auditioning for Hunger Games when I'm in rehab. And my managers have the audacity to send me an audition for a different role in Hunger Games. They're like, by the way, we know you didn't get Katniss because, you know, someone on the offer list accepted the role directly. Do you want to go out for this other part? I'm like, I'm on bed rest right now. BRB.
Do you still have those managers?
No, I don't.
All right, I was about to say, I was like, whoa, that'd be bad.
Man, and they're like, genuine, nice, decently kind folks, right? They're just like doing the thing that the industry does,
Yeah,
which is stop your life at all costs and get to that audition. I was like, I can't make it this time. So sorry.
yeah.
Currently have an IV in my body. Probably is not what they're looking for.
How does one start to get over an eating disorder? Because I know it's not your typical response people give. They're like, "Oh, just have a cheeseburger." You're like, no, that's
Mm,
how much work goes into that. And what would you tell somebody that doesn't know about the battle that they can learn?
sure. Well, I can speak from my own experience only.
Yep.
And I think it's important to recognize that food for someone who is finding themselves with food related behaviors that feel maybe imbalanced or more obsessive, food is usually not just, food doesn't just function as fuel. It takes on symbolism, it takes on additional meaning. And so if someone just tells you to eat the food, what I would hear in that is eat this food, which means lose your thinness, which means you might not get hired for any roles anymore. So basically, eat this food and lose your livelihood.
Mm.
Eat this food, and let's say, there's a fear of rejection because someone made comments about your body. Then that statement feels like eat this food and lose your ability to have people love you and to view you as worthy, right? So there's just much deeper associations and attachments that come forward through these behaviors. So I would say if someone is experiencing a fixation on food, um, maybe they find themselves, counting calories or starting to see foods as yes foods and no foods that aren't medically supervised reasons.
Yeah.
I would say, first, um, get, get curious about your life as a whole and maybe what might be inspiring a fixation on something. Um, and second, I would say, of course, speak to a professional, and if that doesn't feel right, or you're not sure where you are in your journey, just start to look at recovery resources. Because along the way, as you look at these resources that talk about recovery, you start to see the mindset, the mentality, the attitude of what a healthier relationship with food would look like. And so then you can start to understand, where am I on this spectrum? Am I having a couple food related thoughts, or is this pretty severe? And if it feels like, something that this is not medical advice,
Yep.
but something to potentially consider in your exploration is give yourself a time frame um, to explore the symptoms and experiences from a recovery standpoint. And if you're finding that after that time frame, maybe it's a month, depending on your starting point, right, and your condition, maybe it's a month of exploring. If you're finding like you can't seem to get out of some of these traps, you can't seem to adjust these behaviors, it seems to just be running your life, I would strongly suggest um, seeking professional help. It is totally okay and normal to do that.
Yeah.
In fact, like the way I come to understand things now is if you have that kind of behavior happening, that's simply a major clue that something in your life needs attention. And you get to explore that with a professional who knows how to help you sort through it. Like, count me in.
Yeah.
Because you'll discover insights about yourself that, last a lifetime in terms of how you navigate life moving forward.
Do people in the industry like make comments about your weight, like, "Oh, you're too big for this role, like you should probably," like, how do they go about that? Because I know that's like a crappy way of being like, "Oh, you might be too thin or it might be too big for this role." Did you ever get comments like that?
Oh, of course, all the time, all the time. And it's
That's
directly and
crazy.
indirectly. So you'll get a character breakdown that tells you about the role you're auditioning for, and it'll describe your body type. And so I remember getting an audition for a movie called Dumb, Ugly, Fat Friend. And I was going out for the dumb, ugly, fat friend. And to be a young person reading that description and thinking, huh, not only did my agent send me out for this role, but an entire company and network thinks I might fit this description of dumb, ugly, fat friend. Like, I that's of course it's going to take a toll. And then you get
Yeah.
into the wardrobe fittings and you see like, oh, we couldn't find your size, you're too big, or you didn't fill out this dress, you don't come across as, enough of a vixen or bombshell in the way that we're wanting to portray. So of course, your body image is hyper skewed by unreasonable standards. But what's wild to think about is there are like two sides to this coin. Well, I'm sure there are a million, but two of the sides to this coin are: one, I'm trying to get hired to play this role, therefore I will probably comply with some of these standards, like I'll do whatever it takes. Two, on the flip side, someone who's a young person who's watching this is now consuming media that I'm helping create that
Mhm.
perpetuates these standards. So it's kind of a mind game because you're like, dang, I'm wanting to be a positive role model, But in order for me to get the job, I'm having to uphold standards that are, driving my wellness into the ground. Like,
Yeah.
there's just a lot here.
Can only imagine what you go through being an actress.
I mean, that's why I stepped aside.
Yeah, not a bad move, not a bad move.
Yeah, well, for me, it was a fantastic decision. Yeah.
So I know your op-ed you wrote, and you wrote the Toddler to Trainwreck Industrial Complex. It's about the effects of child labor and how notorious effects it can have on those who go through it. You at the beginning of that, you wrote something that really like I gave an eyebrow raise. At the age of 6 years old, you auditioned for this role where the girl got kidnapped and was sexually assaulted. Like, what was going through your head at that time, and what do you think was going through the people's head that like want that scene to happen? Like, I know like scenes have to happen in movies, like that's what they do, but like, how was that as a 6 year old? Because like at 6 years old, I didn't even know what sex was probably. So to go from one extreme to the other, like, how did that feel?
Yeah, I mean, I want to first ask you the question. What do you think was going through people's minds when they wrote the project and had young people come in and audition?
I think it's like kind of like a secret sadistic
Mm,
life where they want to like see that, and
mm,
it's like it's just mentally fucked up, I think,
mm.
from both ends, and it's a different ends of the spectrum. Like we were talking about the spectrum earlier, is like you have this innocent 6 year old girl like going off, like it just like shouldn't be a thing.
Hey, I'll get behind you on that one. I don't think it should be a thing either. Um, yeah, so this is complicated because, of
Yeah.
course, in storytelling and art, you want to protect the free speech of it all in terms of like, hey, these things are really happening, and if you want to portray them, we can't pretend that these things are not happening. Yet, how we go about portraying them I think could be improved drastically. For example, if you're going to have scenes where a young person is subjected to a violent or graphic act, um, then do you have to film them on camera experiencing it? Or could you, for example, um, film them in a solo shot where they're reacting to an event, but they don't actually have to witness the real thing that's going on. You could give them a different circumstance where it might still, drum up some emotion for them, but it's less extreme. But going even further in there, what would be the ethical questions to ask around like, will that child later in their life be upset that they were in a project that had all of this going on in it and they didn't even know that that's what they were reacting to in the story? Like,
Yeah.
there are so many layers and questions. And of course, you think, where are the parents? The reality is, a lot of parents are doing their absolute best to protect the child's well being. They love their children. They're trying to provide opportunities that seem fun and interesting. And they may not know that that's going to happen in the audition room. There are many occasions where a parent can look at the breakdown and the scene and say, yeah, this doesn't have any of that violence in it. So, we're deciding as a family, this is okay to audition for. Well, you get into the audition room, you don't know what the casting director is going to ask the child to do. And I don't think casting directors have degrees in psychology. They're not therapists. They don't know the lasting impact on a young person's development. So, there are a lot of, I call them, stops along the toddler to train wreck pipeline
Yeah.
where I want to pause and take inventory and say, can we improve these conditions so that, you know, the child is in a relatively safer overall environment to start with, and also that the child learns things like, the sense of agency where they could know that they can speak up and say, hey, I'm actually not okay with this, and know that that's okay for them to use their voice. They're not going to be punished or fired. Like,
Right.
in reality, children are just like, they're surrounded by adults. There's a power differential, And using your voice to speak up for something can be really intimidating. So, we need to think like, if a child's going to be on a set and expected to fulfill adult responsibilities and adult roles, then why are they not also afforded the same respect as the adults on set?
Right.
Like, the child needs at least a voice. And, I could go on and on and on and on and on.
So you push for like having like a therapist like on set. Like that's like the type of stuff that you would like to see.
That is one of a plethora of things.
Yeah.
If you didn't know, there are still 17 states that have zero child labor laws. So we're not just
Really?
talking entertainment industry. We're talking all kinds of child labor. And we know that child labor is happening in all 50 states, yet 17 have zero protections. So definitely want to see that change.
Yeah.
Um, Definitely want to talk about like, yeah, that's actually on my podcast that we're recording right now. We're unpacking this beyond my personal experience all the way to a systemic level. So we can really see like what needs to change and what would actually have to happen in order for that change to be realized.
Is there like an HR department on movies like where you can go or like no, right?
I mean, I know that they're technically the studio teacher on set for the kids is also supposed to act as the welfare worker. However, studio teachers, if you've got like 8 kids and some of them are working now and some of them are in school, like you can't play all of these different roles. Mind you, the set teacher also has to keep their job. So if they're saying, no, these kids need 1 more hour in school, and the production company's like, are you kidding? We have a budget and a timeline. Like, we got to get this thing shot.
Yeah.
They'll just fire that teacher and get the next one who allows them to do what they need to do. So there are, supposedly practices in place, but like, no, if
Mhm.
standards and practices showed up to set S&P, they would probably be like, I mean, if they were really advocating for the child's well-being, they would make a laundry list of things that need to change.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, even standards and practices, there's corruption within that. I was on a set where someone handed me a cigarette. I'm like the kid who only wants to be a good kid, only do the right thing. That was just my personality type.
Yeah.
And in the scene, they're like, yeah, we're just going to have you take a drag of the cigarette. And I'm like, probably 9 or 10, 8. I
A
don't know.
real cigarette.
Uh, an, a real cigarette, an herbal cigarette, um, which they said was not as bad. So it's okay because it's not as bad. Um, and the only thing I know about smoking at that age is like, don't do it.
Yeah.
Smoking is bad. Don't do it. Well, now I'm on a set and they're going like, well, we need to roll. So come on, like, come on. It's time to just do it. My mom is not in view. Like she can't see, parents can't always see onto set exactly what's happening.
Right.
So, and she also feels a little powerless, like, oh my God, what are they? It's just a whole bunch of scenarios that happen on the fly so quickly, that it's hard to actually like control all the variables. But
Right.
yeah.
Well, another childhood actress is you've shown support for Jeanette McCurdy. Did you read her book and what did you think about it?
I love Jeanette, and we had the same managers. Actually, the manager who sent me on the audition for Hunger Games while I was in treatment. Um, and I knew Jeanette's mom, and Jeanette and I auditioned a lot together growing up. So fully support her in her healing journey. I have not read her book, mostly because I lived it.
Yeah, right.
So, so I know many people who have read her book, and I would be supportive in terms of like purchasing it to get the royalties for her.
Yeah.
Um, but I was there when it happened. So yeah, don't always need to go back and rehash those instances. But I'm fully supportive of people who are coming forward when they're ready to share their experience. I know that a lot of people are afraid to come forward, and rightfully so. So I'm hoping that more people feel empowered to do so, because I think those personal anecdotes plus the like medical side of things, the clinical perspective, will help us actually cha- um, translate this into something that's actionable. So it's not just another memoir, right? But it's like a memoir plus social change.
So yeah, I know in your op-ed you wrote you didn't even touch on the sexual harassment, the stolen IP money, paparazzi. This is like another thing. Like, when did you like? I know I said this earlier, but when did you realize like this is like a totally different ball game?
I'm still realizing it.
Yeah. How was the paparazzi, by the way, for real?
Oh, well, let me tell you a little insider scoop here. A
Yeah.
lot of times paparazzi is completely scheduled by the celebrity and their team. So, yeah, surprise. There are certain people with, A-list status who truly cannot get anywhere
Yeah.
without paparazzi, and it's unwelcomed. There are also events, right? Special occasions where camera people know that celebrities will be, and so they show up. So I'm not saying it's always solicited, but a lot of times artists, public figures will stage paparazzi photos around the time of, let's say, a release of a new project, or wanting to drum up some attention around romantic interest or whatever. So there's a blend here. um, I I didn't have to deal with as much paparazzi as my peers,
Mhm.
um, and I don't envy them. I feel really bad that they couldn't just go to the airport. I remember the first time I got off of a plane and I grabbed my bag and I walked outside and I was alone, I believe. And there's a camera person there, and I felt so confused because I didn't tell anyone.
Mhm.
And I wondered, like, how did they figure it out? And I asked my team, and they said, well, likely the people called and tipped someone off. They probably saw that you were going to be in this um, town for this event. So they, looked at every single flight coming in from LA today and tipped off someone at the airline to know when you were arriving, or they've been there all day waiting. Um,
Crazy.
and I had that moment of like, whoa, I didn't know I was being watched in this way. And of course, when you're approached by a camera person, like, it's startling, and your instinct is not to smile and be friendly. Your
Yeah.
instinct is self-preservation. But if you end up making a fuss over it, they'll record it and spin it as if you were a diva or someone who was mean. And so there's like this whole layered experience going on where I'm like, wow, I feel really unsafe and violated, yet I have to answer this person's questions until I can get to a safer area, because they might post this and say, you know, Allison was bad mouthing someone at the airport. Look, clips here,
Right,
right?
right.
So yeah, it's pretty twisted.
Did you deal with like clickbait articles? Like you saw like your face on a clickbait article. It was like,
Oh
where
yeah,
are they now?
totally. Yeah, that's tough. Um, it's tough. I think growing up, you know, we as we age and mature and we explore who we are, we hope that we won't be held to our fourth grade selves forever, right?
Mhm.
We want to be taken seriously for the growth the progress that we've made, the development that we've experienced. And so when I see my face on articles that refer to me only as my 12-year-old self, not to mention they just, lie about what really happened, um, it feels so belittling. It feels so dehumanizing, because I've gone on to live a full life, um, with lots of different experiences outside of the industry, and yet I'm relegated to you know this term, former child actor.
Right.
So my hope is that there will come a time when people are um, okay with that being the entry point, saying, hey, you may remember her from. That's fine. That's the way we make initial connection.
Mhm.
But now what? Because I've grown up and so have you. So tell me, who were you in fourth grade? Awesome. Now who are you? And let's give each other permission to be, full grown human beings.
The industry just seems screwed up overall.
I mean,
Kudos to you to fighting it and putting your story out. So that like you should be proud of yourself where you are right now.
thanks. I suppose it's just I just I want us all to have the resources needed to feel better no matter what we're going through, if it's inside the industry or outside the industry.
So you opened up about your sexuality in 2018. I always feel that's obviously not an easy thing to do. Was it hard at first? But how good did it feel to finally open up about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, man, it was nerve-wracking to come forward publicly for sure, because you just don't know how people will receive the information.
Yeah.
And you're gonna get, for if you have a million people following you, you're gonna get a million different perceptions. So it's a lot to withstand. Um, However, yes, there was a part of me that felt liberated. But when I initially chose it, it was mostly me trying to help my partner at the time, who is a woman. I was hoping that it would help her feel more comfortable, that I was not ashamed. Um, and that relationship had its own course. But I think, yeah, around that era time frame, it was fear. It was yeah, I was nervous. But man, it's the yeah, it's the best thing
Mhm.
that's ever happened to me. Oh my gosh, it's the best thing. Like my life is so much better and healthier, and yeah, it's I hope that if anyone is experiencing this and they're questioning or they're confused or they're exploring, I hope that they find, a support system, even if it's online or even it's
Yep.
just reading resources, um, to know like it's okay to truly be yourself. You're deserving of love, respect, care, um, and yeah, always wishing everyone the best in that discovery.
Everybody love everybody. And I know there's a lot of resources out there for that. Like I know like the Trevor Project's one of like the biggest ones. So yeah, if anyone out there is experiencing any issues with that, definitely go and check them out.
Mm.
Um, so you're the founder and CEO of Movement Genius. Can you tell us what that's about?
Yes, I can. So, Movement Genius is your all in one safe place to take care of your mind, body, and emotions. And we have a library of over 200 mental health tools, stress relief techniques, movement classes that are designed by psychotherapists and experts to improve your well being anytime, anywhere. And I think one of the most important and beautiful aspects is that it's also a community of real people. So, over the last year that we've been doing our live classes, in addition to the library, it's been profound to grow with real humans and to share, like, hey, what were your experiences this week? What tools helped you? And to learn new tools so you just feel equipped to
Yeah.
manage whatever your day brings. So we actually have a special discount code. If you want to try Movement Genius, we're giving you a month free, and you can use the code 20TIM, 20TIM. And I'll also give you a link that you can put in the show notes.
I didn't know you were doing it for me. That's a great promo code you got there.
Yeah, it's for you. It's all for you and your community.
Fantastic. I really appreciate it. You caught me off guard with that. That was great.
Oh, yeah, we got to get you set up.
For
I
sure.
want to
Yeah, Alex,
invite
you know what? I'll
everyone.
check one out. I like moving around.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And the great thing is, I know it's in the title, Movement Genius, but not all tools require full body movement. There are tons of things you can do seated, lying down, that are just stress relief techniques that help reduce anxiety. And this goes far beyond just like mindfulness meditation, right?
Yeah.
So this is like, we need we need a more substantial toolkit to manage life, and we wanted to put that all into one place where people could access it whenever they need.
What came first? Is it like the chicken or the egg? What did you become an actress first or a dancer first?
I started dancing first,
Okay.
and my dance instructor was from performed a lot on Broadway, so I think she kind of instilled in us the theatrical acting component within dance.
Would you do it all over again, everything?
Oh, oh man.
What you know now, looking back, would you put Allison through that again?
Oh, I would not voluntarily subject a child to what I experienced.
Mhm.
However, yeah, if I could do it all over again, I would I would hope that I don't think I've ever said this before, which is kind of sad, but it's true at least where I am right now. If I could do it all over again, I would not. And instead, I would hopefully have more parts of myself nurtured as a child, not just one or two interests, because I imagine that the path I would have taken is actually probably more academic, research oriented, medical profession. Uh, so, but we're here now, so we embrace it and we make decisions the best we can with what we know.
Long road, but look where it brought you, though.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm stable, relatively speaking, and that's like,
Mm.
I think that's like the biggest win at the
Yeah.
moment. Yeah.
What's one piece of advice you would give to the next Alyson Stoner?
Oh man. Eee. Ah!
That's it.
Wow. Yeah. I'd be like, I hope you're in therapy.
Yeah. Would it be a
Oh,
therapist? Would you recommend a therapist right off the jump?
would I recommend a therapist right off the jump getting into the industry?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on how old you are and like how equipped your family is to
Yeah.
support you. If your parents know a little about a lot of things, like you might be able to navigate something in a way that has less harm overall. But I'm not sure it's ever been a bad time to get into therapy. I
Yep. Never.
think it's always a pretty good time.
All right, let's end with some fun. I wanted to ask some questions about you. First off, I'm a practitioner as well. How's the Muay Thai coming along?
Well, I have injured myself in ways that I didn't know were possible. But I am thoroughly enjoying it. And it's very mild at the moment. I'm trying not to activate too much of my competitive side because, as you can
Yeah.
see from the top of this, like it can go hard in the paint real quick.
Yeah.
So, yeah, baby steps, baby Muay Thai.
Getting kicked is not fun.
It is not. Oh
No.
my gosh. Especially when it's repeatedly happening
Yep.
because you're drilling and you're like, how many more minutes do I have to just take this thud on the side of my leg? And like, it makes you think, at least for me, I'm like, maybe I need a little more meat on my bones because a little cushion would be
Yep.
helpful
Take that in.
like this.
On a scale from 1 to 10, I'm a bald man. How much easier and awesome was it when you shaved your head?
Oh, scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, 10,
Yep.
11, 12. Yeah,
I like to
every
hear
day
it.
I think about shaving my head.
Do it. Do it.
Yeah, I probably will again, but right now
Good
with
look.
my hair, it's kind of like I know you weren't asking for this deeper meaning, but really quickly, my hair started falling out quite a bit when I was in my eating disorder. And so now that I am in a different position health wise, I want to see if my hair will grow longer. And I just kind of want that to be a little bit of like a living testimony of like, oh, you're not where you used to be.
Yeah.
Um, so we'll see. And if it needs to get just removed totally, I'll shave my head again.
All right, just a few more right now. We'll finish up. What is your weirdest fan interaction? Because I love this. Because
Oh man.
what is the weirdest one? Because I always have to know.
Oh my gosh. Oh
Was it
man.
like at a meet and greet at the airport? What was it?
Growing up, I was on a rec basketball team and we were at I was gonna say on tour. Ha 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 ha. Wrong path. We were in a tournament
Mhm.
and uh, I went to use the restroom and there was a person from the team we were playing against who came into the restroom and opened the bathroom stall and insisted that I take a photo with them. And I was like, can I finish my business, please? And we were young. So, there's some grace and forgiveness, but also like, please, if you see someone you recognize, do not go into their bathroom stall and demand a photo at that time. At least wait
Yeah,
till they come out of the bathroom.
that's pretty shitty.
Oh, then I'm.
What is your personal theme song? Alyson Stoner gets called to a stadium. What's being played?
This takes me back again to basketball days. There's a track called Remember the Name by Fort Minor. It was like
Yeah,
20% luck,
yeah,
20%
yeah.
skill, 15% concentrated power and will. I feel like that song played before games, and I really took that on as an anthem.
Just pumping up.
Yeah, he doesn't need his name up in lights. Yeah.
All right, let's finish with this. What are 3 things that you're grateful for today?
Oof. Yeah. I am I'm grateful for a quiet home space after living in a noisy city for 20 years. I am grateful for these mind body tools that we can use to help ourselves regulate in stressful moments. Code 20Tim.
Yep.
And finally, I'm grateful for uh, shedding the need for things to always be positive and joyful and just embracing, the fuller picture of reality and letting that be okay. Grateful for that. What about you? What are you grateful for today?
Wow. Then no one's ever asked me that. I'm
Yeah.
grateful for you coming on this show. And I'm not even just saying that because I was very excited that your people got back to me and you said you were down. And I was like, wow, she is
Ah,
phenomenal.
oh, cool. I'm glad.
I am grateful for my day off today because I work a lot and I'm very glad I have a day off. And third, I'm grateful for my animals. I have 2 cats, 2 dogs. They're Lucille, Leo, Fanny, and Charles. So I love them very much.
That's beautiful. Thanks for sharing.
No, I appreciate it. I feel like you're interviewing me now. This is great.
Hey, yeah, beware because I've been in your seat before and
Yeah.
at any time
Quick,
I
what's
might
the
just start up.
podcast name that you coming out with again? It's like you're bringing it back, right? What's it called?
So my former podcast was called Simplexity. The new podcast that's unpacking the pipeline and everything is tentatively titled Dear Hollywood.
Mm, I like it. Alyson Stoner, thank you so much for chatting with me today. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you. Likewise. Same time tomorrow?
Same time tomorrow. That's another episode of 20 Minutes. Let's break the stigma by cracking a smile. I will see you guys soon.
Round 1. Fight!
So I play 2 out of 3 rock, paper, scissors with all my guests. It's like a great icebreaker. All right, yeah, you're rolling up the sleeves. Holy smokes. All right, so I'll call it. I'm going to close my eyes so I'm not cheating. It's going to be rock, paper, scissors, shoot. You got it? All right, let's go.
I'm keeping my eyes open because I want my best probability to work in my favor. I'm going to micro view what you're doing in moments and yeah.
Okay. Dude, you're into it. This is great. All right. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
I got you.
Ooh, 1-0. 1-0. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. 2 rocks. Okay. All right. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
You lose!
Yeah, I knew you were going to go paper, and so I'm going to cut you and win. You see? I'm in your mind. Sorry.
All right, see you later.
I wasn't expecting my competitive side to come out.
That's awesome. Oh, man.
Get him!
This podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. If you are feeling suicidal, please dial 911.